Hello, my new friends. I want to welcome you to the Parking Money podcast. We put this together really to discuss collector cars and how this is basically a new asset class for folks. How it has been an asset class for us for many years, and we've been doing this for a long time. And so we just decided we would start talking to folks about it and just kind of come up with some great ideas, have some great guests, and just kind of bring this forward to everybody. Kind of let them know what what we've looked at and how we've viewed this, and just kind of get your take and your comments below, and hopefully this is something you can subscribe to, and we can come to you every couple of weeks, because that's our plan. Yeah, I'd like to introduce our table here. This, of course, is my lovely wife, Debbie, who basically lets me do these kind of crazy things, and she's the one that pays the bills. So that's really important for our buddy Spencer over here.
Absolutely.
This is our good friend Spencer Gates with Haggerty Insurance. Spencer has been a valued partner with us through the years, and has been a great piece of advice. And somebody that we really go to a lot for his opinion, and so we wanted to get him on here today and discuss the aspects of how these things are appreciating, and how what an asset class this has become through the years. And then my co-host is my good friend Brian Barr, who's with Streetside Classics. And Brian deals with selling collector cars every day. He is an asset manager for a lot of different people who view these cars as an asset, and it's really important to folks that invest this kind of money and look at it for a return down the road. We've had some very good examples of that happening to us through the years. So we'll talk about each individually, and then we'll get started just kind of talking with them. Brian, can you think of anything you want to add to that?
No, I appreciate you inviting us here, and myself and the guys from Streetside. And you're right, we're here to protect people's assets, just like you get a stockbroker in the market. Let us do that and help you with your personal vehicle collections.
Great. Debbie, do you have anything you'd like to add on that aspect of things?
Brian, you make me nervous sometimes when you come, because I'm like, oh no, I see another car. I see another car in our future. And then we got, Spencer, more money. So, but no, the cars are fun. We have a good time with the cars. Some cars we can take our kids, some cars we don't. So it's kind of nice to have somebody on Spencer's side that can help keep us in line on right cars and keep things insured, and then help like keeping Mike on the right path, or y'all can bounce things off of each other.
He hasn't bought a Mustang too.
And
No, and I won't be buying a Mustang too.
You knew I'd bring that up.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Yeah. There's a story another time.
Yeah. Spencer, tell us a little bit about Haggerty.
Yeah, so super excited to be here. I've over the years got to work a lot of really fun events with Brian, as partnering with Streetside, and over the years I've built a really, really great relationship with Debbie and Mike. I look at them not as clients, as friends, and I've learned a lot of fun car stories over the years to chat with them. So I'm super excited to be here. And with Haggerty, it really falls in line that we protect people's passion assets and these things that typically appreciate over time. So I think it's a really important message to get out. So super excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Spencer, kind of go through some of the details of the market and what y'all have seen. I know it's a little soft right now.
Yeah.
But kind of go through some of the details and what your analytical people have seen going forward with Haggerty.
Absolutely. So Haggerty has an incredible team that keeps up with market data and valuations. We attend all the major auctions. We're really keeping our finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. We've been really fortunate over the last couple of years to have a really, really strong market. 2024, it kind of softened a little bit, so we have seen things slow down just a little bit. And it's really interesting. We did a recent study around sudden changes in the stock market, as you mentioned, Brian, and there is a correlations to macroeconomics. When the market changes, collectors' behavior changes as well. What we've seen is there's two different paths a collector looks at. So if the market goes down really quickly, the collector may get spooked off and they may not want to go out and get a car. If the market goes down really quickly, the other side of it is the collector may look at that as a buying opportunity.
Yep.
And same way you'd look at the stock market, it's buy low, sell high. The same kind of thought process there. Even with a very, very soft market that we've seen, if you've got a great car with a great provenance, it's always going to sell at a really great price. And I think two really good examples of that is we had a 1972 Lamborghini Miron that just recently sold for $4.9 million. Wow. Top of the sales price for that vehicle, and it was in a soft market.
So that car 5 years ago was a $2 million car at best. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then at Amelia this year we had a 1903 Mercedes Simplex that sold in north of $12 million.
Wow.
Highest level of that class of car that sold.
Wow, that's amazing. You're talking a little bit about your valuation index.
Yep.
Every day, myself and my team, we rely on, we look at that. We all have Hagerty valuation tool up on our computer screens every day. It's part of our market analytics when we're talking to people who are bringing us cars. It's a really great tool.
Yeah, and it's something that a lot of people use as a trusted tool when they're out there kind of keeping up with the market. Hagerty keeps that updated every quarter, so it's current information that's out there, and it really is a great way to differentiate Hagerty out there as providing that kind of information for our clients and friends that we work with.
Spencer, how much does Hagerty look at the bring a trailer sales and valuation?
Yeah, so usually we have someone at all of the major auctions that's tracking and keeping what the cars are selling across the block.
Do they more rely on the major auctions as opposed to the online stuff?
Yeah, we look at that. We also look at partners like dealers that we trust like Streetside, where they're selling cars and getting information from there. We look at the private market when clients are insuring their cars with us and kind of where they're buying and selling them at. And we take all that data and we try to compile it into a really good comprehensive focus on what the market's doing. When we look at that data, we kind of look at it in 4 different condition levels. So you've got a Concourse level, which is usually less than 5% of the cars in the world to kind of qualify for that.
Right. Or what every owner who brings me a car thinks it is.
Yeah, absolutely. A number 4 level would be more of an excellent car. That's going to be what you'd see at a regional car show.
Yep.
3 is where a majority of the cars that we insure, it's a good condition car. And then 4 would be average, which maybe needs a little bit of work. But, it's a really great tool to kind of dial in and see what the market's doing.
Yeah. Like I said, we use it all the time to look at things. And we have everything from number 1, condition cars to 4 condition cars at Streetside.
Well, Mike uses that tool to sell me on why he needs this car.
Exactly right.
So I see that tool all the time.
There's a lot of that.
Well, but the thing about it is, think about these collector cars. Think about them as a share of stock, okay? A share of stock. And I told Debbie this one time. We were at Barry Jackson. I said, think about these cars as shares of stock. I said, when the car comes through that door on the left-hand side over there, we have an idea of what it brings. We don't really know yet. We have an idea of what it's worth. But when it goes up here, just like at the stock market, and if you look at stocks, it's like this all day long. When it gets up on the stage, the buyer is fixing to meet the seller. And when they come together on a price, that is what that car is worth in this room at that moment.
Absolutely, at that moment.
At that moment.
At that moment.
It's a snapshot.
Yeah.
So basically when it rolls off and rolls out that right-hand side door, now we know what it was worth in that room at that moment.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think there's always going to be outliers. There's going to be one that sells way above
Always.
what the market's
There's
worth.
going to be a drunk guy in row 10 that's drunker than hell that is going to try to impress that cute
Yeah.
girl that he met from last night at the bar. He's going to show her how much money he's got. He's going to pay way too much money for that car.
And then when he wakes up tomorrow, he might regret it, right?
And then when
Right.
he sobers up, he's going to go, what the hell did I do?
Yeah.
But there's always that guy.
No, I think he regrets it when he goes to the back at
Yeah.
Barrett Jackson and has to sign
Yeah.
and write a check. Then he's going, what did I do?
And the title clerk says, "Is this going to be in your name or hers?"
Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point, Mike. I mean, with live auctions like that, there's always an emotional component to it.
Absolutely.
And it's exciting.
That's one of the things, and they're a competitor. Bring It to a wonderful platform. I've sold cars on Bring It Trailer, but they are a competitor to Street Side. That's one of the things that we offer is we kind of remove that emotional element. You're not in the heat of the moment. You know what we call it your net to owner is, like your reserve. And if you don't want to take it, we're not going to pressure you or waive a fee to close a sale.
Yeah, right.
You're more in control of the transaction.
You know, and that's one of the reasons I am a huge fan of Bring a Trailer. I'm a huge fan of Street Side as well, but a huge fan of Bring a Trailer is the fact that it's a 7-day long auction minimum. So you get the opportunity to sit there with the entire internet sphere and hear everything wrong about that car. Everybody nitpicking into this. Most of the time, it's some guy, uneducated keyboard warrior that basically Googles the problems we've had with air conditioners on a 1974 Mustang. You know what I'm saying? And basically will come up with some. You look at this cat's history on the deal. He's never bid nothing. He's only talked
Never
about
won
stuff.
nothing.
Never won nothing. Never. You know.
But he has 7,000
But
comments.
he's got 7,000 comments. Right.
That's all good. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but it's
But yeah, I mean, but at the same time, you get all of those folks, you know, kind of data searching the whole thing and basically talking about the problems that car may or may not have.
They've had some cars just hit it out of the park.
Oh, they have, and they've had, and you know, what drives me crazy is how great cars they typically have.
Yeah.
But you know what's the other crazy part is they sell 150 cars a day.
I know.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's insane.
It's a lot of volume.
Yeah, a lot of volume. And you know, and that gets back to what we are talking about, this being an asset class.
Yeah.
Because Street Side, Barrett Jackson, Mecum auctions, REM auctions, you have a stock market going all the time. You have Bring a Trailer 24/7.
Yep.
You know, so those stock prices that I'm talking about, that would correlate with these cars, you know, you have that little basically New York Stock Exchange, that little mini New York Stock Exchange going all the time. You have the buyer meeting the seller.
Yeah. The bell rings at 9:00. The phones are ringing. My guys are on the phone. Our sales team.
Right.
They're talking to folks. My inventory staff. We're having those conversations.
Right.
Some of our bigger, collectors and consigners realize what you and I were talking this morning. Got a guy who's got to just move and free up some capital so he can buy some other things that he wants in the current market conditions. Yeah. Sometimes you don't make the margin you want on a stock. Some people take a loss, but it's a moving target because there might be another value opportunity out there you don't want to miss.
Well, and I mean, just like with the stock market, the reason the price of stock went down is because the buyer met the seller at gradually lower prices.
Yeah.
You know, and the same deal with the car. But the great thing about Bring a Trailer that I love is that you have the ability to go back and see what ones have sold.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a permanent record. I mean, you can carry it around in your pocket on your phone.
Yeah, auction results. Mecum has that too.
Yeah.
That's one feature we don't have. You'll see our sold lots. You know, you can see past sales on ours, but it shows the list price.
Yeah.
So I think with our valuation tool, it provides a lot of historical data over years period of time to kind of show kind of what the market's trending with those cars.
Yep.
I'm curious, you know, Mike, you and Debbie have built a really great collection of cars, and you kind of mentioned, you know, the process of going through and purchasing at an auction. You know, there's several factors, I think, looking at a passion asset that you really have to be careful about. So when you and Debbie are going to an auction and you've kind of identified a car that you really are interested in, What kind of homework do you do to make sure that you're kind of putting your best foot forward when you go to make an offer?
Well, to me, you're always looking for rarity. The rarity is it's there's a guy told me one time, maybe I read it one time. There's 6 words that I always remember in collecting anything, and that is I've got it and you don't. 5 words. I've got it and you don't. Okay. And basically it comes down to if there are 10 of them in the world and I've got one, well then me and those 9 other guys get to decide what it's worth.
Yep.
And that's providing all 9 of them are in good shape and are still around, hadn't burned up or hadn't rusted and sitting out in the middle of a cow pasture. You know what I'm saying? So that we get to decide what the value is.
So when you look at that, obviously the auction's going to do a lot of homework to provide data on the
Right.
car. Do you do any additional research on your end to verify that, hey, this was one of the 10, or kind of what do you go through there to?
Perfect example is that car that's sitting right behind you right there, Spencer. It is a 2012 Shelby 1000. Okay, Carroll Shelby, when he started you got to keep in mind, Carroll Shelby only ever built 2 cars from scratch. That was the Series 1, which is a silver one right over there, and the little Can-Am race car that they built. That's the only 2 cars he ever built from scratch. And the reason he didn't do that is because it costs so much to run those cars through the regulation standards to make sure that they would pass all the DOT emissions, all the DOT safety rules, so that he could sell them with a 17-digit VIN number. And even the race car wasn't even part of that. But the Series 1 back there, that was the only car that he ever built from scratch. Basically, everything else he did, the Cobras, the Daytona Coupe, the Mustangs, all the stuff for Dodge, was basically just another manufacturer that built it, that made it.
The platform.
And then they sent it to Shelby and had it souped up and made it a race car or whatever. I mean, Shelby was you saw the great movie Ford versus Ferrari. And you saw the relationship that Carroll Shelby had there with Ford. Basically he was taking the Ford product and making a performance vehicle out of it. And we had Edsel Ford in here a few months ago talking about basically Ford wouldn't be around if it wasn't for racing.
Yeah.
Because they've made such a huge impact on the rest of the world.
And that car, like, that's where the legacy continues.
It was, and because Carroll had been making Mustangs. Basically, he came back to Ford after all the years of he ran a safari in Africa. After all those years, he came back to Ford in 2007. He actually came back to Chrysler first. Mm-hmm. But in 2007 he came back to Ford and they started kind of hopping up Mustangs again. So there's hundreds of thousands of Shelby Mustangs out there running around right now. And
I have 4 in stock, and just in Charlotte.
Right, 4. Right. And some of them are somewhat rare in a certain color or a certain performance package, but not a ton of them. This car here was the last car that Carroll Shelby, who died in May 2012. He was 93 years old. But the last thing he wanted to do was make a 1,000 horsepower Mustang and sell it to the public, okay? He took a Mustang, took it completely apart, tore the engine down, basically got it exactly like he wanted. They made 2 versions of it. One was 1,000 horsepower measured at the crank into the crankshaft, and another was 1,000 horsepower measured at the wheels or at the back tires on a chassis dyno. And that was with 1,150 at the crankshaft. So basically, he only built 23 cars, and it was in the last days of his life. And so this is one of those 23, and it's like I said, it's the only 1,000 horsepower one he ever made. And that'll get to be more common with manufacturers. I think Corvettes have got 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah, that's the new goal.
That's the new goal, is 1,000 horsepower. But we found this car in Florida with 179 miles on it, and paid a lot for it. But I really feel like one day it'll be worth a lot of money. I mean, that's kind of what the goal is. And so as long as you keep it insured, and if I crash it, that's the great part about Haggerty, is because of the Haggerty valuation guide, and because of what you paid for something, and because of being able to go in and compare it to what's sold on Bring a Trailer or anywhere else, Meekum, then you can insure it for that amount. And Haggerty is the greatest insurance company, because you think about it, they're making so damn much money. They're basically insuring stuff that sits here in the dark, that's going to be here for a long time. I don't drive it very much at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, the whole business plan is outstanding, but they are the best company to deal with, and
Car people.
Yeah, a lot of car people.
Out of all the insurance companies we deal with homes and RV and just stuff that Mike finds and comes up with, but out of all the insurance companies, Haggerty is easy to deal with. If we need anything, if I needed something and called you, you would pick up the phone. But at Amelia, it impressed me so much, and I was so thankful. We had our 24-year-old with us at Amelia. It was the day of his birthday. We were going to go do something, and you guys had the event going on.
That Saturday evening at the house, right?
Yes, at the house. So we went and took Dustin, and you went and bought him a birthday cake that he knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And so it was just such a great surprise. And to me, that's the friendship part, So it makes it easier to write those checks, because I know you care and we care. So
it's always fun with Haggerty.
it is
it's always
fun. There's
fun.
great parties.
It's business, but it's
Yeah.
it's fun.
I guess we get to be the fun insurance company, right?
Yeah, right.
The parties are fun, and you're meeting other car people, and there's lots of women at the events, which is nice, because there's more and more women coming out for car events now.
Yeah.
So those parties are fun. We always meet people, new people.
We always enjoyed having you there, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's another aspect of the cars from an asset class standpoint, is what you get to go do with them in between the times that you get the insurance bills. I mean, you know what I'm saying, or the from buying and selling the car.
You have a potentially appreciating asset, right?
Yeah.
And the people take care of you.
Yeah.
And people on Wall Street aren't
Yeah.
inviting you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How
Over
many times,
buying a
how many
birthday
times
cake.
did your broker bought you a birthday cake?
Right. And I get a little invitation to sit down with a bunch of other people, and he wants to sell
Yeah.
me something else.
Right. Exactly.
So
exactly.
you mentioned, the uniqueness of this car and how you kind of look for those. And it sounds like when you're going to an auction, you kind of trust what the auction has, but you verify it and make sure you do your own
Oh,
homework.
absolutely.
You brought up the Ford versus Ferrari movie. Another thing with a passion asset that can kind of really change the value is who's on the ownership of the car.
Oh, yeah.
Or a movie. Has the car been in a really famous movie? Has a really famous person owned that car previously?
Some of them are Queen cars.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a short wheelbase 911,
Yeah.
like with
Yeah.
10 times its
Yeah.
value.
Two that kind of come to my mind are the Bullet and Paul
Bullet
Walker's Skyline.
Yeah.
Both of those cars were much lower condition valued cars, but they sold well above what the value of that
Yeah.
condition was because of the history of them.
Well, and the Bullet car, it was nothing special. I saw it a couple of times before it actually went off, and I think what it got $4 million plus.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. It still had holes in the floor where they mounted cameras and run wires and stuff. I mean, it was rough.
Yeah, but that's just part of the history.
Yeah, but that thing had been in hiding for what?
Oh, decades.
30 years.
Yeah, and then there's other celebrity cars where maybe they're not as meaningful to the car community, where it really doesn't shift the value. So you kind of have to understand the car, the ownership, and how that's going to impact that passion asset. And then when you have that car like the Bullet, getting in front of the world at an auction or something like that to kind of tell the story, it's always really important.
Well, it's like the Batmobiles, right? There were 4 original Batmobiles. Number 1 was what did that thing go for? 14 million or something a decade ago?
Yeah.
Right? And then there's the other 3 that are there, and then there's tons and tons and tons of replicas. Very nicely done, but I'm sure that carried the replica market. I'm never going to have number 1. So
Right.
Yeah, and then
we've had a couple Batmobiles.
I think if you look at other cars like modified vehicles, when you're looking at that as a passion asset, authenticity is very important. So a car can only be original once. So once you start making changes and doing things to it, it could actually affect the value of it. But then if you have a vehicle that has been restored and you have someone that's got awards, or it's like a well-renowned like restoration company that does it, that can really add value to it. So kind of knowing that impact, if you do have work, and who's doing the work, and how that's gonna look.
And documentation along the way.
Yep.
And I wish every one of our clients would document every single nut and bolt. Some guys will come in with just volumes of their restoration, and sometimes that'll get lost in the transfer, through an auction or even through private sales. But that documentation means a lot to people too, because it shows the history of the car. We have cars that have original invoices, original bill of sales, the Protecto plates, all that stuff, and you feel almost like a Indiana Jones archaeologist, right? Like, oh my gosh, just going through this stuff, and that's part of what I love about my job is, we don't sell a homogeneous product. We sell a lot of different things, and finding out all the little nuances. And when you get a well-documented car, they sell faster.
Yep.
They bring more money, and people are attracted to them.
What are some keywords that you kind of listen for, Brian, when you think about like an original car? Do you think of like barn find, preservation, things like that? That kind of
they fall into different classes like that. You'll get barn find cards, and there's a broad spectrum of that, but it gets back into it needs to be rare, it needs to be collectible, or ultra low mileage. My granddad parked it, and it's a Hudson, Hornet with 8 miles on it.
Yeah, right.
And that makes a difference too. An absolutely original, well-loved car.
Yeah.
Right. That was a family heirloom. People like that story as well.
Yeah.
Traded down through the generations. But you said they're only original once, and that's true. I've had some folks come in and they're like, well, it's original, but I've repainted it. Well, it's not original. It's a very nice car.
It's painted.
Right. And there's some delicate conversations. Yeah. And then when we get in, we see a lot of modified cars.
Yep.
There's that hobby segment of folks, especially when we're getting into things like how popular the LS swaps are now. They're putting LS swaps in Mustangs. Coyote swaps, all these things.
Yeah.
You'll see in the Chevy world, you'll see LT1s in cars, and then you'll see LS1s, LS3s, LSXs. There's a date stamp on all those too. So you kind of know what you're getting in terms of the build and when it was built. And overall, there's a bit of a, an LT1 car, everything else being the same, is not going to bring what an LSX car is going to bring.
So curious, certain times you'll get a car that probably someone put way more into the car than you could ever get out of it.
Yeah.
How do you handle those conversations? And it's got to be something where that person really wanted that car with that modification or in there.
And that you get into that passion point, like you're talking. There's a lot of emotion that went into that. And there's certain classes of cars I see this happens a lot with street rods.
Yep.
Right? People get a lot of money into a street rod. It's a very specific build. And it comes down to doing the comps, right? Just like a realtor would, or a broker would do a market analysis. That's how my team looks at it. Oh, you've brought us a car. We've sold some. They're not exact. They're all somewhat unique.
Yeah.
Here's the range of what they're going for. I understand what you've got in it, right? Understand what it would cost that to replace it today, arguably more, right? But here's where the market's selling.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's just educating them kind of what the market's, where it's at, what's going on.
We run into some estate planning things as well with people too. Yeah. And it's good to get ahead of that.
So I've found, kind of looking at these cars as passion assets, when you look at, some of the add-ons that these cars have, when you look at performance add-ons or very unique or desirable add-ons, it really adds up with the value of the car.
Yep. Quality, brand name, who put it on.
Yeah, and kind of looking at something that's very unique like the car, but if it's something specific to that car where only a few had this on that car, that can really change the value of that as well.
Right. I'm looking straight ahead here. I've got a 1957 T-Bird that we bought here recently in Arizona. With a Ford Coyote motor in it. It is a total Resto-mod redone. Beautiful car, black, red interior, or gray interior. And then I've got one right next to it is a 1969 Datsun 2000 sports car, tiny little car with a Resto-modded Toyota engine. So, it hauls the mail. I mean, great car. But I think one thing's important to bring up right here is what you start looking for with collector cars. the Resto-mod market has become extremely popular, and those cars, a Corvette with a LS3 in it, as a mid-year Corvette with a LS3 in it, is a very popular car. But looking at these two right here, I've got a formula that I always use because these cars are generational. They're absolutely generational. Basically, I take a car like this 57 T-Bird. Now, being a Resto-mod, this doesn't apply, but if somebody is looking for, or you're looking to buy a 1957 T-Bird that's completely stock in immaculate shape, here's the formula that I've used that always seems to be right. You think about that car was built in 1957, okay? Think about a 20 years old, that walks into the dealership in 1957, looks at this car just oohs and ahs, got a little slobber coming out of both sides of his mouth. Oh my God, I gotta have this baby. Oh, but he looks at the sticker price and realizes he can't afford it. He's 20 years old, okay? He can't afford it. Now, 30 years pass, okay? And he, through real estate or through stocks or bonds or whatever, construction, you name it. Now he's made a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. So what does he do? He looks back at when he was 20 years old. Maybe his wife that he has now was just his girlfriend then, but now he is in 1990. Gosh, let's say 50 years old.
1997.
1997, okay. 1997, he looked at 1957, okay. He was 20 years old, so 1997, he'd be what, 60 years?
Yep.
60 years old in 1997. So basically, he's 60 years old, got plenty of money, can spend it on anything he wants, okay. He can buy land, he can buy houses, he can buy boats, airplanes, buy anything he wants. He's come to that point with money. All right. That's cool, but keep in mind that 20-year-old that looked at this car in 1957, he was born in 1937. Okay, so now today, he is, what is that, 87 years old. He's 87 years old. He is reaching the pinnacle of his life. His life is fixing to end, and that group of people gets very small. Also, too, with that group of people, they get past the point of looking back on their youth and trying to relive their youth. Now they're just trying to get to 90. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's the truth, and so now they're just trying to get to 90. So now health becomes a bigger issue than reliving their youth.
We see
that a lot, yeah. And so suddenly, that car has just aged out because there's fewer and fewer people that are 87 years old.
Yeah.
And you're just not that many people wanting that car anymore. Yeah. Because the 20-year-olds that came into the dealership in 1957, there's not many of them guys around.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing, and you can apply that to any car. That's why I'm a big fan of 1990s cars right now.
Mm-hmm. So I think you bring up some really good points there, Mike. And I think one of the questions I get a lot when I'm out in the field working with collectors is, what's the future of the hobby? What are we looking at? What's the next generation? Mm-hmm. And to share a few numbers, when Haggerty did some research, we have about 43 million cars, which would be determined a collector car in the United States.
Wow. 43 million.
Out of those,
43 million.
43 million. Out of the 43 million, the total insured value would equal about $1 trillion. And to give you a little broader concept, in 2021, there were about $2.2 billion in auction sales that took place just in the United States alone.
Just in auction. Did that include bring a trailer?
No, just auctions.
Just auctions.
Yeah. So if you look at that, it's evident that the collector car market is substantial. Mm-hmm. So that takes you to the next question: is it going to grow? So when we look at quotes that we do at Haggerty, a large portion of the clients that we have are the baby boomers, the largest portion. But where we're growing on new quotes is Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials, those all the new generations that are coming in there. Those are the ones that are buying cars and starting to get quotes and growing them. So I think the future of collector cars is very, very bright.
Oh, absolutely.
And with that being said, you know, we didn't have Cars and Coffee when I was younger.
No.
But you go out to those events, and I've seen everyone here at those events, and you may have 1,000 cars at an event, and a good portion of them are younger enthusiasts that are getting out and enjoying the hobby. So I think it's exciting to see. I feel like there's tons of opportunity. And to your point about the car aging out, I think what I've seen is there's different collector cars where you can get in at different price points.
Yeah.
And if you're smart about it, you can buy that asset and make money off of it and buy the next car that you want and the next car that you want until you get to the point where you can get one of those at a much younger age than having to wait until your retirement age.
We've got guys that do that. They're wholesalers, and they're building their collection. They're starting out small and affordable. Good value might be the tail end of a market, right? Yep. They'll buy it, but they've bought smart. They've thought about it, and they flip that into something bigger and better. We see a ton of people, like you said, coming in. They're at they're at a different stage of life, downsizing. They're selling their car. But we had a young guy come in, barely 20 years old, bought a Model A.
Wow.
Right? But blew me away. A stock Model A. Wow. But what are you going to do to it? Yeah. Figure I'm going to hear that it's going to get cut up into a rat rod. He's like, nope, this is a piece of history. It's 100 years old. I want to learn about it.
Oh, nice.
And those guys are out there. So,
but you know why you're telling that story? Because that is rare story.
Rare story.
Right.
Now, one of the things I do for the youth that try and do my store, and the other guys in the other shops we have 6 locations, is I'm bringing in some JDM cars.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in
popular.
90s Fox bodies, IROCs, that stuff. Because to your point, there was a guy who was a teenager who's 40 now, who's like,
right about you think about that guy that was looking at a 94 Fox body or a 94 Mustang. You know, that guy back up 20 years, to my formula, back up 20 years. He was born in 1974. Right now, he's 40 years.
Yeah, 40, 45 years old.
Well, 1974 to 2024. He's 50 years old. 50 years. He got money now.
Yeah.
You know, they say. Now, I can't remember if I read this somewhere or what, but they say the largest transfer of money in the history of the world will be when the baby boomers, the born, you know what's the last year of the baby? Honest, don't get off here. But you know what the first year of the baby boomers were, right? 1945. All the soldiers came back from World War II, started having babies with their wives.
Building belly tankers on the soft lanes.
Yeah, right. And so it started in 1945. You know what the last year was? You know what the last year of the baby boomers?
I think I know, but go ahead.
No, tell me if you think you know.
And in 61?
64.
I'm a baby boomer.
You know why? Because that was when birth control was invented. Does that not make sense?
That makes complete sense.
We actually had a guy come in and do a thing for our company. We had our company one time and said that, and that just my head went.
It's great to see, though. I mean, as things shift, right? And I probably said it to you guys before, like Porsche 911 Turbo, right? That was my bedroom wall poster car. Remember the Flying Leap? Right. So and then
right there with you.
Right, and then the Martini Porsche plaster. My mom's upset because I got Scotch tape and staples in the wall. It's just like road and tracks piled up, car and drivers, right? Just because that's the world I lived in. Yeah. Right now, there's some kid with a Cybertruck on a wall.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
right.
Well, but the thing about it is, and this is the interesting part. Our good friend Dale Ledbetter, who we all know, basically pays attention to what's going on in a big way. And he told me one time, he said, always buy the cars that were stapled on somebody's wall.
Couldn't agree more.
He said, that's the car you want. However, what was the last year of those pictures in magazines that you could pull out those metal staples, fold it out and staple it on the wall?
Right.
That was Gen X, baby.
Yeah.
The last ones to have those pictures on the wall was Gen X. Then everything become computerized.
So it'd be which pictures are on your wallpaper of your computer or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I just hired a new showroom attendant, great young man, right? Gamer. So and he worked for a tow company, he worked for a traditional dealer, but he's just found out coming to work for Streetside that there are vintage and collector cars in his racing games.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. Right. So there's an opportunity to touch those kids, and now, hey, experience it for real. When that was cool, let's get you 67
Well,
months.
you know what? Like even at Amelia, the past Amelia, look at the kids that were there.
Yeah.
There were a lot of kids there, which is great.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do with Haggerty is when we get an opportunity to do the youth judging.
Yeah.
We get to take kids from 8
Yeah.
to 12 years old. We pick 5 or 6 cars. We walk them around. The owners get to tell the history and the story of the car, and they judge and pick a winner. But they learn so much, and it gets them interested in cars.
Yeah.
I've actually had some adults tell me they did something similar to that, and they got the car that they got to look at it as a kid like that.
Well,
That's
you
a
know,
great story.
Yeah.
When we wanted Amelia last year with this car back here, we got the Children's Choice Award.
Yep.
And that, to me, that was more prestigious than
Because they think that looks like a spaceship.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, that's a spaceship.
Yeah, and that brings up a great point too. So
a spaceship that's a tribute to the 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
How ironic.
Mike and Debbie, y'all have had the opportunity to have your cars at some incredible Concourse events. So when you think of a passion asset, what do you think about when your car gets to go to one of these events or wins one of these awards, or maybe even has a racing history with it? That's definitely something that you got to think about when it comes to the value of a car and maybe it being worth more.
I had this car, trying to see it on the wall. I've got a picture of it somewhere. But I had this 1968 GT500 KR convertible. Okay, one of 57 4-speed air cars. Right. So anyhow, I had it at not Hilton Head, but at
Pinehurst.
Yeah, Pinehurst.
Yeah.
Thought I wasn't allowed to talk about this.
No, wait a minute. I'm gonna tell the story. So anyhow, this car was a great car. I bought it from Rick Henry's collection.
It was
It
an
had
amazing automobile.
Yeah, I had 22,000 miles on it, great, but it had one repaint, so it wasn't a Concourse car. And so they put it on the cover of the magazine for the Concourse. Okay, on the cover.
You're welcome.
But yeah, but it didn't win anything. Yeah. Right. So and I got beat out
what beat it,
by
Mike?
1978 Mustang 2
Black
King Cobra.
King Cobra.
I was a big part of that Concourse, and we could have picked a better judging scoring system.
Oh, my God, it was horrible.
That's my favorite story, but you told it this time.
I know, yeah. So anyhow, so the King Cobra beat the really cool car.
And then
So-
what happened?
So then I loaded on the trailer, and Ledbetter pointed me to this guy in Winston-Salem, and we took it up there, and it sat up there for 2 years and got restored, and came back in 17, and that was in 15, I think.
Yeah.
Came back in 17.
A decade ago. Man.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and won 7 Concourses.
Yeah.
We pulled it all over the country. It was a perfect car.
Yeah.
And but
You guys were a big part of that first event at Pinehurst. These guys behind
cool
the
event.
scenes you can't see, they're sitting in the Pinehurst rockers.
Yeah, oh,
Which-
yeah, they
those
are,
are
yeah.
rare because you can't get them anymore.
You can't get them anymore.
Oh, wow. That's right. I didn't even think about that.
You kind of mentioned the car up on the wall as a kid and those kind of things. I think also a huge part of the hobby and the cars are the stories that come along with them. And you know,
It's the people and the
yeah.
stories more than the car.
personally, my mother's father, my grandfather, he had a 1972 Chevy C10 pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
I spent so much time with him in that truck. My aunt owns it now, and I've taken my daughter out for a drive in that truck, and she's like, "Why is everybody looking at us?" I was like, "Because it's a fun truck."
'Cause it's cool.
But
That's
when
a
I get
family
in there,
legacy
when I
car.
sit in that truck, the smell, the feel of the steering wheel, it brings me back to times I spent with my grandfather. And, you know, would it be something that I would go out and pick up as my car on the wall as a kid? No, but I couldn't pay enough for that truck. It's such a cool experience when I'm in there.
I haven't had a shoebox for 49 to 50, but I want one because I came home from the hospital in it.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm really curious, Debbie, I think you've got a pretty good story of a gift that Mike bought for you of a car that meant a lot when you were younger, right?
He did when I turned 60. when I first met him, I had a little 300Z that I just loved this car. It was fun, and I was young. I didn't have kids, and it was just a fun car. Yep. So I meet Mike, and we decided to move to Florida. We're going to get married, move to Florida. And then came 2 children that I had no children at the time. So then came 2 children. I'm thinking, I can't stuff them in this car with groceries and school rides, and it's just not doable. So I sold it and bought this little Isuzu. Wasn't it a Isuzu?
Subaru.
Was that what? No.
Subaru.
Was that what it
Subaru,
was?
yeah.
I hated it. I absolutely hated every time I had to get in that car. It was ugly. It looked like a box. It didn't sound good. The radio was terrible, but it got me what we needed at the time. So I'm like, okay,
There's an appliance.
we'll make this right down the road. Make a change. So for my 60th, he takes me out, blindfolds me, takes me out with my party. We go out in the back of the ballroom, and he starts talking about this car. Well, I have my blindfold on, and for some reason, stupid reason, I thought he was talking about the Subaru. And I'm thinking, God, please. Because I'm going to need to act like I'm so happy when I'm not going to be happy. So, because I was not going to embarrass me or him in front of everybody.
Oh my gosh.
So when I finally pulled that blindfold off, it was the anniversary version of my car. It was beautiful. It was more beautiful than what I could have afforded at the time.
What a great surprise.
It was such a good surprise. And then somebody here at Multimatic bought me
You a bunch
cassette
of,
or
cassettes.
8-track.
Went online and found
A whole
bag
bunch
of cassettes.
Right.
of 8-tracks that we could pop in and out. Oh, it was Steven.
Steven,
Yeah, that's funny.
But that was such a good car. That was a fun car. But it's what made me sad was this age now, I just didn't drive it. I didn't drive it that much. So we ended up selling it. When did we sell it? In California?
Thanks.
Did we sell it with the Z's? We sold it with the Z cars, the collection.
When's your next birthday?
January.
Ah. I start looking for a Subaru.
No. No, Mom has changed her mind. She likes Ferraris now.
All right.
Good taste.
So
Good luck, Mike.
Well, guys, this is kind of wraps up our first podcast here. Really excited about it. We want to continue to have great stories, and want for you to give us your opinions in the comment section below. Anything you'd like to see or us to talk about, we'd love to. And we're going to have a deal. We're actually got a deal coming up. If you like and subscribe to our podcast here, we're going to open up to all of our subscription folks. And if you have a car that you're looking at or you're thinking about down the road of purchasing as a collector car, we're going to offer you a free, if you can come to this part of the country. We're in Mooresville, North Carolina. But if you can get the car to this part of the country, even if you just ship it here, we will look it over. We'll bring in a bunch of experts, look it over, give you our advice on the car, and free of charge, just as for content to show other people what we've seen about these things that make them great, and what we feel about the market is on it. But we'll be around hopefully for a long time, and be doing this because we're all pretty passionate about it, and we've got a lot of great friends that are pretty passionate about it. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike
See
and
you
Debbie.
next time.
thanks. Thank you.